Hey everybody. So for today's movie review, I'm going to talk about some films that get better with age. So for this video, like I said, nothing really specific with this one, but I do want to talk about some films that I do strongly believe do get better with age. Like as time goes on, as people get older, there's something about these films that get more valuable as time goes on. So let's get started. The first film I have on this list, and I have about 7 films on here on the list for this video, is No Country for Old Men by the Coen brothers. It's one of those films, you guys, where the older you get, the more you kind of understand the film. Specifically near the end, don't want to spoil it, but basically, without me ruining the ending, it does deal with Tommy Lee Jones kind of thinking to himself and kind of explaining to this woman he's living with, his wife, I think, um, that um, basically the older he gets, the harder the job gets. Um, like criminals get more, they're becoming more dangerous. There's certain aspects of the job, that his sheriff job, that aren't as easy as they once were for him. And I think we kind of all kind of go through that at some point. I think that's once again why this film gets better with age. Specifically for those who get older and older, they like watch the film when they're in their 20s, then maybe when they watch it again when they're 30s or even earlier than that, at an earlier year. We kind of see kind of where he's coming from with that. Um, the next film I have on the list is Drive. Um, it's one of those films where um, we kind of notice more originality things about it. Um, Certain aspects of the Ryan Gosling characters start to make a little bit more sense as we get older. Um, Things like, we're not going to always be happy with the results we have with our life when we're done with it. Things like, we always think that we're going to have that one woman or that one man as our spouse or as our lover, or they're going to have some type of significance in our lives, and sometimes that's not always the case. Something kind of always happens with that. Um, so I think in that sense, Drive kind of gets more contemporary and makes more sense as we get older. Um, yeah, it just seems like one of those films where the older you get, the better and the better it gets, and the more you begin to understand the kind of the meaning behind it. Um, the next film I have on the list is Tron Legacy. Some people are going to probably question why I have this film on the list. And for me, to tell you the truth, I think it gets better with age because of the father son relationship in the film. Um, for those who are still a son and not a father yet, it's definitely one of those films where where there's going to be kind of that period in our lives where we're more independent, or basically like there's something that maybe your parents or your parents don't tell you until you get older. You don't understand the reasoning behind certain things until you get older. And for those who are fathers, it's kind of an interesting film about kind of understanding the son after a long period of not seeing the son, kind of understanding them, kind of how to reapproach things, how to start over again in some ways. So in that sense, the film gets better with age because for those who have been both a father and a son at some point, um, those kind of things of those aspects of the film start to make more sense. And also the technology I think still holds up. I think even many years from now when the technology is really good, I think even the technology used to make the world of Tron Legacy, this cinematic world, is still going to hold up because it's just very well done. Um, so Tron Legacy also made the list. The next film I have on here is Rocky. Um, it's definitely a film where, kind of like what Sylvester Stallone talked about with EFI when it made it to the top 100. Um, we're not always going to win in life. We always have this dream and this myth that we're always going to win, but sometimes we're not always going to win. But Stallone makes a good point of, even though if you didn't win, are you at least happy with yourself of what you've accomplished? And I think that message, that theme, makes even more sense as we get older. The film becomes more contemporary because the film is pretty old now as it stands. Um, I think that message really connected to people and really stood the test of time because of how powerful that message is. Um, So, even if you lost something, are you at least happy with the effort or the way you approached it? I guess, like, are you going to look back at that and at least tell yourself that you worked very hard, and even though the result wasn't a win, can you at least be happy with your accomplishment, or at least getting to that position? Um, the next film I have on here is Adaptation. Um, it's definitely a film, definitely more along the line of the contemporary feeling gets better as it gets older. Um, because I mean, it's the story of a screenplay writer struggling, and I think that kind of story can never get old. Um, Unless in the future we don't have screenplay writers anymore for films, that's the writing of the film's taken care of by another source. Until that gets outsourced, the film I don't think is ever going to get old. Um, it might be old in spirit and age, but the story and the message will never get old. Of kind of um, throughout this film, this guy was struggling with this very hard source material to work with in a film, but he found a way to make it work in an interesting way. And I think that kind of idea of there's always something out there and there's always an original way to approach things, I think still exists today, even after the film's several years old now. Um, Fantastic Mr. Fox is a film I have on here because I think it becomes more contemporary the older it gets. It's definitely one of those films where the more you watch it, the more you kind of pick out things and the more you start to um, just realize how truly brilliant it is. Also, with the Mr. Fox character, a lot of the things he talks about in the film makes more sense as you get older, I think. Um, Basically kind of what our roles are in life. He was talking about he was a fox in here, trying to be a human at some points. He had to come to the realization at some point that he was a fox and that he was something in nature and that he wasn't a human. That he can still do these extraordinary things, but still be the creature that God put him into this earth on. Um, so Fantastic Mr. Fox also laid the list. The next film I have on here is The Karate Kid. Definitely a contemporary film. It definitely stands the test of time. There's a lot of things on in this film that really never get old. Like you really never can get sick of it. The wax on, wax off. The lessons Mr. Miyagi taught Daniel Larusso in this one. Um, there's a lot of things in the film I think that, like I said, really hold up today, just because uh, not only is it good balance in martial arts, it's good balance in life. Um, and I think that balance still exists today if you still follow what the film was trying to teach you. Um, so that was my list, you guys. What do you think? Is there some films on here that really stand the test of time? Do you think the films I stated here are good examples of that? Was there films that I didn't have on the list that you think should have been on the list? So let me know what your thoughts down below are, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video.